Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Cory Lipset, head coach Tony Ersland, and the voice of collegiate wrestling, Shane Sparks, joins us this week. Shane, great to see you again. Good to have you on the show. Appreciate your time, and let's get right into it. I know, we're elbow deep in the season right now. Just what are your overall thoughts of where the wrestling season is here in 21-22 and what gets you excited, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
This time of year, we were talking before we started recording, it's cold weather. It's wrestling weather. Where I'm at, it's about -10, -15 today, and it feels like wrestling. It's hard. That's the word that I would use to describe right now. Heading into the meat of the Big Ten season about midway through. And this is kind of where you start to be able to see, maybe some teams moving around a little bit where it may be a little clearer picture. But I tell myself every year that I don't think the Big Ten can get any better. I mean, every single year it's like, it can't get any better than this. And it just keeps getting better. It's amazing the talent in this conference. Kids come in and they're so skilled early. They are expected to win out of the gate. That's exciting. I love the conference and on the national scene as well. It's great to see parity in college wrestling. I love seeing Arizona State have success with Zeke Jones. Chris Pendleton now up at Oregon State. It's good for the sport for him to have some success out east, those programs as well. Now we just got to figure out a way to get some of those SEC schools, like a state like Georgia, to buy in. That's what we got to get to happen. But it's a great time of year. And as a wrestling fan, this is fantastic.
Shane, you've really emerged, with your work through the Big Ten Network, and you've done some stuff with ESPN, and you're starting to branch out into some other sports, which has got to be really exciting. I guess, how did you get your foot in the door with TV and getting what was the path like to get to this point?
It's been so much fun, very humbling, and timing is everything. I mean, I think the number one cliche is if you don't have health, you don't have anything. I mean, I think that's so accurate. And I think timing is everything. And where I got my biggest break was at the national tournament in Philadelphia. I believe it was 2011. I had been watching the Big Ten Network, and I wanted to be a sports broadcaster since I was 10 years old. And I never had a plan B. That was all I wanted to do. My parents were always super supportive and just grateful for them because they never told me I couldn't do something, which now that I'm older and have kids of myself, I just really am thankful for that. But I was at the national tournament, and at that time,
I tell my kid, no, he can't do things all the time. Stop it.
But they had those little earpieces that you could listen to. At the national tournament, you'd buy them for like $10, $20. And I was on one of those, and I'd been watching the Big Ten Network, and I'd watched Tim Johnson and Jim Gibbons, and I always thought, man, this is really what I want to do. So I went back to my hotel after the NCAA finals in 2011 and got fortunate where I was on the semifinals, and then I did the finals with Brian Hazard, who now does the PA with Jason Bryant. So Brian and I felt really good about the job we did, and I went back to the hotel, and Jim Gibbons was in the lobby. And I was really ramped up. I remember I'm pretty intense to begin with. And I remember walking.
You don't say.
I never noticed.
And I was walking up the stairs to put my bag away. And I remember telling myself, you got to find a way to meet Jim, and you got to calm down. Like you got to bring it down a little bit. Long story short, I start talking to Jim. And while I'm talking to Jim, Quentin Wright walks by, and I believe he won his first national title that night. So I was having a conversation with Quentin Wright, and as I was doing that, Jim Gibbons was talking to the Scove brothers. I think Jude Scove was a national champ at Ohio State, I believe, and I think it was Andrew Scove wrestled at Oklahoma State. And I could hear them in the background telling Jim that they had heard somebody doing these broadcasts. So Jim turns around to me and says, Shane, come over here. These guys were listening to the broadcast. And I think Jim just said, talk. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? And the guys are like, this is him. This is the guy. This is the guy. Jim Gibbons and I then get in a cab and go to, I think the place was called Pinky's Diner in Philadelphia. We're there until like 3 a.m. It was Jim Gibbons, myself, and another guy who I didn't remember who it was. Jim introduced me to him. Full transparency, the name didn't ring a bell, which when I give you the name, you'd be like, how does that name not ring a bell? And then later on, I figured, now I know who this guy is, and it was Randy Lewis. But I didn't know it was Randy Lewis. So we went out to this Pinky's Diner. I'm assuming I probably picked up the tab, which didn't hurt. And they happened to be looking for a guy that next year in the Big Ten, and that was the biggest break I ever got. And that was a big break, and the rest is history. But that was really significant, and it just worked out.
It's awesome.
Great story.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic story, right? That's called making the most out of an opportunity too, buddy.
Yeah, you have to, and you guys will appreciate this, because you're right, Tony. I had this discussion with my kids last night. My favorite wrestling video of all time, and if you've never seen it, I'll email it over to you guys. It's Jay Robinson. Cole Schrupp used to do video work for Minnesota, and he does the video with Jay Robinson before the dual meet with Iowa in 2014. And it's like, you gotta love the fight. And Jay's in the locker room talking about there's this. And then Jay Robinson says this. And I showed this to my kids last night. You gotta make it happen. You can talk about it, but the difference is you've got to do it. It's the best video ever. It's my favorite video. I love the video. And last night, I had it out with my kids, and because I told my son Logan, who's a senior in high school, you can read all the good books. You can do this. It all looks good. But the difference is you've got to make it happen. So, you got to make it happen somehow.
Yeah, that's why you prepare, right? Like you prepare for moments like that. I mean, we talk about it all the time in competing, but it's the same thing in life. You're absolutely right. You got to be ready when those moments present themselves, and that means doing the work along the way.
And the other thing that's significant about that is a lot of times you don't even know that opportunity's presenting itself. You might not even know it. I mean, from a broadcast standpoint, I always tell myself, and I think I got this from Derek Jeter, and he probably got it from somebody else. You've got to assume somebody's watching you for the first time. You don't know who's watching you. And that's why, regardless of the match that you're doing, full preparation. And I learned it. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties in the Purdue-Wisconsin match. I didn't know that was going to happen, but the only option at that time was, all right, Shane, we had one headset, I guess. I was the only guy that could do it. Tim Johnson was next to me, but thank God I was ready to roll. I mean, as good as I felt I could be. I didn't know that was going to happen, but you better be ready. You better be ready. It's just the way it is.
No doubt.
That was definitely a wild, the way that played out from a tactical standpoint. I didn't even tell Tony during the duel, Shane. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm not going to bother him with this.
Yeah.
He's got enough on his mind. He's not, Jeff Sermon, our producer, called me. He's like, Tanner, everything at the network is down. I was like, excuse me? He goes, yeah, everything's down. We can't do anything. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead, start the duel. And I was like, okay. I go to everybody at the score table. I was like, guys, everybody pretend we're on television. Coaches don't need to know. Nobody needs to know. We're going to operate like we're on television. Let's just.
Yeah, we try to make lemonade out of it.
Yeah, I tell you what.
Good, but case in point, you never know. You just gotta. It's just like wrestling. You just gotta. I think my favorite word in life is just compete. Like just compete. And I'll be honest, that was hard because for me, I could not hear any audio. So I couldn't hear whistles. I couldn't hear fans. I couldn't hear anything. And I love to broadcast wrestling, but little known secret, I don't want to listen to myself the whole time. Even I get like, oh man. But I told myself mentally with that broadcast, all right, this is not going to be easy. Just compete hard. And then, of course, the first match we're live on, I get a 1-1 to sudden victory at 174, which was like, come on, guys, please, let's go.
Give me something to talk about. So let's talk a little bit, Tony. Let's go on to some Purdue wrestling here for a minute. Let's talk about the weekend that was, and love to hear some of Shane's input on this. Started off the weekend Friday against Illinois. A little known fact, I didn't pull this out before because I know you hate stuff like this. I did tell Cory.
Yeah. I did not include it in the broadcast either.
No, we left it out. We left this out. We had not beaten Illinois in West Lafayette since, what did I say, 93?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I hate that stuff.
Yeah, I know. So, it was to get those guys in our building and to go out there and take care of business was historically a pretty significant thing. And, we won 6 of the 10. We had a couple tech falls, huge win from sophomore Hayden Lowry at 165. And overall, a really solid night of wrestling, Tony.
Yeah, no, it was a good bounce back match for us. I thought the week before we were a little sluggish, as we've talked about. And so the guys came out ready to wrestle. And as you said, put up big points in a lot of matches, which is what you're trying to do, right? You're always trying to score points, and so I thought it was a much better performance. The guys looked like they had great focus, great energy. And this time of year, that's what you want, right? I mean, you're in the middle of the grind and so you're expecting guys to, as Shane just said, man, go out and compete and execute your game plan. You're not making wholesale changes, right? January, February, you're tweaking all the small things that are going to make you your best when you get to March. And so it was good. It was nice to see the guys dialed in, focus, and execute their game plan and a lot of the points that came with their execution.
Shane, there's a lot of wrestling going on this time of year, and you're obviously preparing for the ones that you're calling on television specifically. But obviously in today's day and age, it's amazing that you have access to all of it. If you don't get to watch a match that you wanted to watch, you can go back later and it's on, B1G Plus, or it's on Flow, or it's on, somebody's got it somewhere and you can go find it and watch it. That being said, how much of it do you get to watch? How much of it do you get to go back and watch?
I'm more dialed in this year because we have this show on Monday nights, Big Ten Wrestling and Beyond. So I'm far more dialed in. I mean, I watch a fair share. I mean, I got that mat return segment, so I'll watch a lot of highlights there. I do a medal stand every week, which I do the best job I can, but I'll be honest. I mean, every now and then it's like, I'll give you this time of year. Sometimes the days run together. A couple of weeks ago, I did it, felt like it was right. And I got done. I'm like, yeah, Shane, you had your days mixed up. That was actually, there was a guy I was going to put on at a different spot. And I'm like, I can't put him there because he lost once this week. It's like, no, that was last week. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not perfect, but to answer your question, I try to watch a fair share of it. And, you see on social media, you see a great match, then you go out and find that one. Big Ten Network's got a YouTube channel. You can find a lot of matches there. Big Ten Plus, as you mentioned, there's just so much access out there to watch great wrestling. So I pay pretty close attention.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because the one thing I'll point out is that this was our last Friday, Sunday. Right? We've had a few Friday, Sundays already, and those definitely make the days run together. Weekends, whether you're on the road or not, and it's a lot to keep up with. I imagine for a guy like you who's got to keep up with all of it, I'm trying to keep up with a few teams, right, that we're going to face and what we're going to do, and those Friday, Sundays keep you busy.
And it goes so fast because I really start dialing it in hardcore on Thursdays. A couple of coaches interviews maybe on Wednesday, depending on how many we have. But if I got 2-3 duels in a weekend, typically I have 2. Sometimes I have 3. And then you had that show on Monday. It's literally, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You got about 5 days dialed in hard. Couple days to take a breath, and then it's right back in it. I love every minute of it. But I can't believe that here we are. We're almost in February. I mean, it goes quick. Once the train starts, once that, trying to make a good Purdue reference here, once that Boilermaker gets going down the track, it's hard to stop it. There you go.
For sure. No, Tony was actually just remarking to the team yesterday, like three duels left before the postseason,
Yeah.
It's gone. Like it's over with. So, 3 of the bigger wins, from that Illinois duel, Tony. Garrett Ninehouse went out and got a big pin at 174. Garrett had a great weekend overall, but really nice to see him go out there and go in for the kill.
Yeah, no, he looked good. His consistency's been getting better, right? He had that really good win from Labriola, right, over Nebraska early. Had a tough match against Kemmerer, right, where we weren't quite as sharp as we should have been, but he's been rounding into form and looking sharp, flying around, hitting his positions. And that's what we're talking about, right? Executing your game plan. And he definitely did that. He's a pinner. So it was nice to see him get back on top of the DJ Shannon boy and get a fall there. And I think the McNally kid from Wisconsin was a round of 12 guy last year, if I'm right there.
Yep.
So a good, strong, solid win there too. So yeah, we're excited about the direction he's trending.
Two other guys came out and got tech falls. Parker Phileas picked one up at 141 pounds. And, the one I know Cory wants to talk about this one. Thomas Panola went out and exercised some demons and put up a 23-8 tech fall at 197.
10 takedowns for the guy who likes to hand fight. You know what I mean? So no, that was great, right? And you're not lying. He's, as the Big Ten is, and we've always talked about this, right? It's a tough schedule, night in, night out. And, his first couple duels was guys like Schultz and Warner and those guys and Caffey, who had a strong weekend here, right? That was his first three duels. And he's in every match. I mean, he's right there. He's in every match, but he came up short in a couple of them. And you could definitely tell he was on a mission to go get his attacks and kind of establish what the pace of the match was going to be.
Yeah. Tom, like you said, had a tough start. Got another win on Sunday. Went out and beat, freshman wonderkind Braxton Amos from Wisconsin. It's a nice time to definitely, like you said, it's getting that time of year. It's a nice time to get going.
Absolutely. And you got to understand, like, the grind of the Big Ten is what it is, but you've got to just keep emotion out of it, right? You got to focus on the game plan and getting better every week and understand that a loss in January doesn't determine what March is going to be. It's about learning and refining what you're doing. And I think Tom's picked up a couple things where maybe, he took a couple close losses early and he's been cleaner and executed better in those positions later. And that's what you want to see is guys, cleaning up those little areas that are kind of holding them back.
Shane, you have a tough job in the sense that, you talk about doing your show on Mondays and you're calling these duels. You look at a weight like 197, right? And, we're talking about Thomas Panola. Thomas Panola's a round of 12 guy last year, consistently top 15 in the country this year. But you look at the rest of the Big Ten and you got Max Dean, you got Patrick Brucky, you got Cam Caffey, you got Greg Bulsack, and you got Eric Schultz. And you talk about parity and you look at this, but it's just like how do you, when you have to talk to people about like the intensity and the toughness of the Big Ten, like how do you make people understand it that may not actually get it?
I can't. I mean, that's the reality for a couple of reasons. Number one, I didn't do it. I wrestled through high school, wanted to wrestle in college and had some, I love my soon to be 26-year-old son to death, but, made a decision and got my then girlfriend pregnant. And that was the end of college wrestling. So I have 4 years left. I technically have 4 years of eligibility. Which,
it's good to know hers.
Yeah. I cannot imagine I would get more. I mean, I just can't even. I used to maybe 10 years ago when I first started, and then I was 35. Like, gosh, I got 4 years of eligibility. How crazy would this be? Now I've gotten way smarter. Like, I don't want any. I have no interest. But yeah, you cannot describe. And the other thing that I think about it, ironically, your heavyweight Michael Wolf comes to mind more than anybody else in the country. Try to wrap your head around. Like, this is my best friend from high school is still one of my best friends today, went to the Air Force Academy. Number one, he was the valedictorian. I met him. We got really tight through wrestling. He was a senior. I was a freshman. And I saw it was so instrumental and impactful in my life as a 15-year-old kid, because I saw a discipline that quite frankly, I've never seen again in my life. The work ethic, the discipline, Scott was unbelievable. And when I watch a guy like Michael Wolf and his story, he's wrestling in the Big Ten at heavyweight, which is, that's a whole nother deal.
Yep.
And I mean, the guy was at the Naval Academy, then he serves in the Navy for 4 or 5 years. And now he's coming back for some degree that I couldn't explain to save my life because it's that high level. I don't think people understand like what I've never met this guy, but I feel very confident betting a lot of money that my intuition's probably right. I'll bet this kid is an absolutely amazing human being that most people don't get. I mean, I don't care if he wins. I don't care if his record's 5-20. I want to be with that guy. Like that. It's just what when you look at the wrestling in the Big Ten and then you add on the academics of being a student athlete. Oh man, I didn't do it. And I just really admire, but the Michael Wolf story to me, in my opinion, in my research this year, I think it's the most incredible story in college wrestling this year. I think it's just unbelievable. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought him up because that's pretty well said. And that encapsulates, Shane, a lot of our guys, right? I mean, honestly, it does, right? Like what kids have to go to not just compete at a high level. You have to compete at a very high level based on what Tanner was just talking about, but what it takes to even get to the mat in terms of school and your training and your diet. And I mean, I think that's what most of us probably love about the sport and what makes all of it worth it. You know what I mean? It truly is. So I thought that was incredibly well said. And you're exactly right about Michael. He is a tremendous guy, man. For those wondering, it's chemical engineering PhD.
Yeah.
I do not have one of those. I
can't identify either. Yeah. So tremendous story, but again, lots of those stories in these sports, right? About what kids have to go to reach the success and the milestones and the achievements they do. So I thought that was really, really well said.
I liked also too, the on the mat, and I got to go back and watch the full version of it because I just saw it a little bit during the broadcast, but Parker Phileas, I mean, he made the comment, I heard like, he lost more in his first year of college wrestling than he did in like 4 or 5 years combined. And that to me is, man, and he's not the only one. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. Alex Duringer was a 3-time national champ at Oklahoma State. And I remember him telling me once, he goes, my first year in that Oklahoma State room, I'd be like in tears thinking I was horrible. And that's whether it's any Division I room in the country, you come in all world, you're used to winning. And you got to experience something that is probably, something new. And that's incredible too. I mean, guys that are willing to stick it out and fight and get better, trust the process, just keep on fighting, keep competing. And Parker Phileas, he's a tough wrestler.
Yes, he is. He's another great example, right? I mean, we got a lot. I mean, but no, I'm glad you brought those things up because it is incredibly important besides just the wins and losses, which is why we're here, but still part of that experience.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have a couple of those on the mat features done this year with Devin Schroeder and then with Parker Phileas.
Yeah, Devin's was great too. Great too.
Special, nice shout out to Scott Henry and Connor Hoke, who were the two on our end that really did the work on that and pushed on those. And so, and even guys like Alec White and Max Lyon that helped step in and tell stories about their teammates and how that, that goes, that's not sometimes I don't know if that's the easier thing or the harder thing is when they bring you in, the story's not even about you. And they're like, they just want to talk. They want to ask you about somebody else and like kind of pull that, have to pull some of those stories out of you that way. So appreciate those guys for jumping into that as well. Big week coming this week, Tony.
Yeah.
In the fact that it's rivalry week for the Boilermakers, and that's a fun one. Shane, to say that one 5 times fast because I always struggle with rivalry week.
Oh yeah. It's like shoulder surgery. Same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so we go down to unfortunately unfortunately, my man Shane Sparks will not be on the call for Purdue and Indiana on Saturday. But we will be live on the Big Ten Network noon Saturday at IU. And we look to keep doing our thing in the state, Tony.
Yeah, no, obviously we've done a great job so far during my time here, and we look to continue that kind of dominance, I guess. And besides, with us tapering down, we just talked about 3 duels, right? It's IU, it's Minnesota, and it's Northwestern. You want to continue to kind of refine and sharpen your skill sets that you're going to rely on, at the Big Tens and Nationals. So that's really what it's more about. It's about, hey, executing your game plan and getting out and scoring your points. Shane said it before, compete, right? Like compete for 7 minutes, get into your attacks, control the pace, control the ties, and really let the winning take care of itself as far as I'm concerned. Like if we put our best foot forward and we give our best effort, we're pretty good. You know what I mean? Now, always easier said than done, but that's truly what it's about. At the end of the year, being your best self, executing your game plan to its highest potential, I guess. And that's what we're looking to do on Saturday.
Shane, put you on the spot a little bit. You think Purdue IU, what are some of the matchups that jump off the page at you?
Yeah. So I'm going through it in my head. 133 with, Ramos and Foley. I mean, I like Ramos has got some tools, I like him. Those, 41 is, one of those Rooks brothers, I believe, is at 41. Yep. He's tough. So, that'll be good with him and Phileas. Looking at some of the upper weights is Washington, DJ Washington, is he 84 with Lyon?
Yeah, 84.
Yes, sir.
That'll be a big one. That'll be a really
him and
big
Max
match.
Lyon. Yeah.
Those are a few that come to mind immediately. But as you know, in this conference, guys, and I'll use, 125 is probably the best example of this. It's you can take 6 guys, and if you don't, I don't care who. I mean, when I look at 125, Soriano and Hildebrand are, those 2 guys were 1 and 4 last year. Yeah, well, Soriano was a couple years ago already, but you got Soriano, Hildebrand, Barnett, Schroeder, DiAugustino, McKee, Heinzelman, exactly. That weight class to me is like the Big Ten and dual meets. If you don't show up, this is not, I don't care what team you are in the Big Ten. If you take them lightly and don't show up, you are playing with fire. You've got to, and that's why this conference is so tough. Every single time you toe the line, you better be ready to fight. Because if you're not, if one thing's off, whether it's, I'm just being honest here, fight with the girlfriend or another relationship is off. Or you didn't get your weight right. How's your academics? Did you procrastinate on something this week where you didn't get the proper sleep? I'm a big believer. I never did it, so I can just shoot my mouth off, take it for what it is. I think if you compete at this level, this is it's a 365-day year commitment. Not saying you got to work out crazy every day, but everything you do in your daily life, if you really want to be up here, your lifestyle's got to reflect that. And if it doesn't, I don't care who you are, you can get beat. You're playing with fire. So that'll be a fun duel for you guys. And I've been a part of that a couple of times. I've done a couple of broadcasts with Purdue and Indiana, and in-state rivalries, they're different. They just don't.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to show up and they're going to fight and want to slug it out. And as you said, we got to do the same thing. We got to show up and slug it out, be ready to compete.
Yeah. Tony, he says he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he keeps saying things that make sense. Is that how you're hearing it?
Well,
yeah, it's kind of weird. He begs off saying he doesn't know, but then he's speaking a rational line of thought that I can follow. So that's pretty.
You know what it comes down to, Tony? This is what I've always thought. When you look at yourself, you're part of you wrestled at University of Iowa. You're part of that 97 team. You're around those athletes. Gable's your coach. Then in the different places you've gone to, you've been at, correct me if I'm wrong, you obviously were at Nebraska for a long time.
Yep.
Were you at Northern Iowa?
Northwestern in Chicago in the Big Ten. Yep, Northwestern.
And then were you at Central Michigan?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Really.
You look at the places you've been to, and this goes for like quite frankly, any coach in the Big Ten. You know what you're talking about. Like if I was an athlete, and I'm older guy. I mean, I wish I wasn't this smart at 18, 19. Okay. But you guys know what you're doing, and I would trust the process. If you told me to do something, I'm going to do whatever you tell me to. That's just the way it's going to be. And then at the end of the day, that way, regardless of what happens, there's never going to be, I'm not going to be sitting here as older in my life, going, gosh, I shouldn't have, done this or done that. If I'm going to wrestle in the Big Ten, that's just my opinion.
Yep.
I'm either 100%, I'm not 95%, and 95% in, I don't know. I personally, for me, I just wouldn't do it because I know the demands of it. If I'm going to do it, it's 100%. I'm going to try to control the controllable, and then I'm not going to have second guesses. So if Tony Ersland tells me to do something, that's what I'm going to do. And he's done it. He's got,
I appreciate that.
You know what the blueprint is. You know it. You've done it. You've been a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the challenge of coaching, right? Getting these young men to see beyond just winning, just winning the match that week, right? It's big picture, it's long term, and knowing how this can impact your life, right? I truly believe that. And so to get a young man to think beyond just, the match this week, that's all I'm trying to do. Like, let's think big picture and long term, and how this is going to affect you and your life, I think is part of coaching. At least that's how I view it, right? You're not just coaching a kid for this week, you're coaching him for what he can be, both on the mat and as a person. And that's important. It's an important thing in my opinion. So
very
appreciate that.
I often tease Tony, Shane, and tell him that, you want to hear the definition of insanity? You entrust your livelihood to 30, 18 to 22-year-old young men.
I can't imagine. That would be, because it's that's difficult. I mean, it's hard because, and I have great respect for Tony and the job he's done at Purdue. Tony Ersland doesn't take a second seat to anybody. I've always said that. I've just always loved the way that you guys run your program, the way that you do things. And but it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do because you can do everything right. You guys are doing everything right. And, sometimes that equates to success. Sometimes maybe it doesn't, at least from a wins and losses standpoint, but it's far deeper than that. I mean, the reality is wrestling is supposed to be the avenue for the rest of your life. And there are people that have had plenty of success on the mat from a wins-loss perspective that unfortunately probably have, taken some bad paths. So It's big picture. I mean, you want, and I don't want to speak for you, Tony, but I'm probably safe in saying you want guys that go on and have success. And when they run into you 30 years later, they look at you in the eye and thank you. And that is powerful. That is powerful stuff.
Yeah, no, and I'm getting old enough too, Shane. It's not quite 30 years here, right? It's the 25th. And so I do got a lot of guys out there, but yeah, those are the things you enjoy. And I just happen to believe that they go hand in hand, meaning success on the mat, what you preach and how you go about operating at a high level every day is what leads you where you want to go in life. Right. I mean, and about kind of your encounter and what changed it for you in that hotel lobby, but it was all the preparation. And then when you got there to that moment, you didn't panic because you've been preparing for it your whole life since you were 10, right? Like, I'm preparing, I want to do this. And so when the moment came, you didn't panic and you were ready. And that's how I feel about it in wrestling. Like, when you get to that national championship match, you've been preparing for it. No reason to panic. We're ready. Sure. And then that should translate again down, whether it's your first job interview or your first company or whatever. I just strongly believe they both go hand in hand. Success on the mat equates and translates to success in life. I truly believe that.
It's hard to, it's hard when you have a big, I'm a big balance guy. Not that I think we're all striving for this. I have not figured this out yet, but very rarely do you have one aspect of your life that's a disaster. And then, you got other areas that are great. It's probably like you said, it kind of all goes hand in hand together. But that's a battle. I know every day there's something, you're fighting something.
Yes, there is.
Amen. Cory, you are a guy who has worked in TV and done a lot of things with broadcasting and announcing and putting duels together and other sporting events. I kind of want to give you a chance to go at Shane a little bit here and ask him about maybe a story or an event or anything that has happened that you've seen that you're curious about.
Well, I love the preparation part. I love the luckiest people are usually the ones who work the hardest to set themselves up for that sort of aspect of your story. I'm definitely going to be sharing your story, probably this clip with some of my students, because so much of this business is right place at the right time. But A, you have to make sure you're at that right place at the right time. And B, you have to make sure that you're ready when the opportunity presents itself. So thanks for sharing that. That's such a great nugget. It's such a great testimony of what success takes. When you say you've got 2, sometimes 3 duels a week, what's that preparation like for you? I don't think people, viewers, casual viewers, fans of the sport don't really understand all that goes into that. You say you start dialing in on Thursday. What's that look like?
The preparation is big, and you really have to embrace the grind, so to say. And I try not to, it's a perspective thing. The one thing I've really been working on lately is I get to do this. Like, are you kidding me?
This isn't a job. I
can't even wrap my head around it. I can't. I mean, I talked to my son Logan last night, and it's funny. I told him, I said, Logan, because I was going in the rant mode last night with, I just fired up. And I said, the other thing, Logan, is the harder I work, the luckier I get. I actually said it to him last night. But I think that the details are so big, and it's a constant. I'm always looking for little tricks. So in that Purdue match, in that Purdue match, like, I'm texting Tanner on Sunday morning because I want to make sure I got pronunciations right. It's Havre, Montana, right?
Right.
Okay. I don't remember. There were 2 kids. One was from Wisconsin. I think he was their 33-pounder. Maybe he was from North Dakota.
Yeah, Berwick.
Yep.
Berwick. I think he's a North Dakota kid. And wherever he was from, I wasn't 100% sure on the pronunciation of the town. So what I do is I Google the high school, I get the high school voicemail, and I trust that they're getting. Well, I called the high school. I could do it for 2 kids on Sunday for the Sunday match. I call up the high schools, and they don't have voicemails. So I went to both communities and Googled grocery stores in those respective towns, and I get somebody that answers, and I'm like, probably going to be a strange phone call. My name is Shane Sparks. I do Big Ten Network Wrestling. Can you tell me how to pronounce the name of the town you live in?
That's awesome.
Because where I messed up with that is I messed up with Brady Berge a couple years ago and said that he was from Kasson, Minnesota, and it's Kasson. Like, those are little things. And hey, guys, like, I'm really frustrated with myself right now. I did the Big Ten Wrestling and Beyond show, and I made like 3 or 4 mistakes. Now, probably a little tired, but it doesn't matter. It's a great excuse. Like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Huh? That's fine. At this level, it's like a wrestling match. If you want to be on Big Ten Network, it doesn't matter what you're tired, whatever, you got to execute it. I mean, I can't wait to get back on that show because I'm not happy with it. I felt like I got beat last Monday, but the preparation's big, and it's just trying to find little things, like just little things. I like stories. I try to look for stories. That's why that Michael Wolf is, I love telling that story. But it's not real glorious. I mean, it being on TV is fun. I love what I do, but I always get people will say, like, I want to do what you do. Like, I know sports. It's like, and I'm always polite, like, okay, that's great. It's probably like you, Tony, when you hear like, so-and-so's really good. He's got 2 state championships. And it's like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But there are levels to this. two-time state champion in, some states are stronger than others. But, the other thing I would say, Cory, too, that I think is super important, the most important thing, if I was to talk to students, I do not have a day of TV training in my life, ever. I'm almost embarrassed half the time when I'm in the studio. I'm too embarrassed to ask, like, what camera should I be looking at? Because they're going to be thinking, they teach you that in the first hour of school. Like, do you not know anything? And I don't. I think humility is huge. I did a basketball game for the first time last week. Fran McCaffrey of Iowa was the head coach. Hey, coach, I really appreciate the time. I've never done this before. Like, humility is so big. And I think how you treat people. I think how you treat people is by far the most important. I'll have some stage managers sometimes, hey, Shane, can I get you something to drink? Hey, I appreciate that. You tell me when you want something to drink. And you can tell they're kind of like, I'm very proud of this. It's just how I'm wired by God. I don't have an ego. You check it in at the door. I'm lucky to get to do this. And I also know this show will go on without me. If I don't ever do another Big Ten broadcast, trust me, I'd like to think people might miss me a little bit. They're still tuning in. There's a lot of people that can do this. By the grace of God, I just, fell into this. And I think that's an important message too. I mean, nobody's picking up my garbage. Nobody's picking up my garbage ever. And the other thing too is when you go to a place, pick your garbage up. I mean, I was, last year, Cory and Tanner were good enough to let me do some Big Ten baseball. Yep. I will promise you that when I left, there was no garbage there.
I can verify that.
Those are just things. Those are just little things. Like, you can be the most talented guy in the world. You can be the most talented guy in the world. If people don't like working with you, you're done. Yep. Like, you're not going to make it. You got to be humble, do the little things, treat people right. And again, I'll say it again, pick up your garbage. Do not leave garbage for somebody else to pick up. It's, don't ever do it. Pick up your stuff. There's my rant.
Leave it like you found it.
Absolutely. I mean, to take it one step further, it's even like if I go back to if I coached high school wrestling, which I don't, but if I did, I'm going to be I'd get on the microphone before the duel and let everybody know, like, hey guys, here's the deal. Like, maybe I'm sure it costs money to have people clean the stuff up. Like, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of money. Like, I'm asking everybody kindly, can you pick your garbage up? I mean, you asked my kids this, and I don't know if this is good, but I don't know if there is anything that takes me from 0 to 170, like seeing somebody litter. It chemically in my brain takes me to crazy town. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'll
tell you something, Shane. Since we've established that you've never coached, after a duel, I'll let you come in and I'll let you do the post-game speech, okay? Because Tanner, who has never wrestled or coached either,
ever,
get him in there one day. He's going to come in and talk about headlocks, I think.
That's for sure.
We need more headlocks.
Hoops and headlocks.
Yeah. So, if you ever want to put on your coaching shoes one day, we can come in after the duel and we'll give you post-duel speech if you want to. We'll get you the experience, okay?
Hey, I'd be for it. And trust me,
I'd
made plenty of mistakes. Like, I mean, a lot of this stuff I know from experience, unfortunately. Like, it's not that I have all the answers. It's like, I did this and I had to go through the consequences, and you don't want to do this. Believe me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If you go to the library and get, back in the old card catalog days, if you go to the library and look up bad decisions, I wrote the forward on it. I mean, I've made plenty of bad decisions. And as we know with bad decisions, it's one of the best lines anybody ever told me. They have consequences and you don't get to pick what they are. Like,
Yep.
Learned that the hard way a couple times.
I hear you.
For sure. Well, Shane, thank you. Thank you a million times for joining us today. You've been fantastic. Thank you for all you do for us at the network. and all you do for wrestling as a sport. We appreciate you, and we're big fans over this way. And we hope to see you again real soon. I know we've got you're not with us this weekend at Indiana, but we're on again with Northwestern, and maybe you'll have that one.
Yeah. Hey, I really appreciate you guys having me on. And Tanner, you do a great job helping us out. That's the other thing when it comes to Big Ten Network and putting these productions on. Tanner, you're always great. I mean, all the work you do with getting us all the stats and the history, that's great. Tony, you're always fantastic, giving us your time, helping us do our jobs better. It takes everybody. And that's kind of like what I alluded to before. I mean, everybody's got to, do their part. Nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody's important. It's just the way it is, So yeah, it was fun to be on here, and thanks to you guys, and enjoy the rest of the season, and looking forward to crossing paths. It'll be fun.
Appreciate it, Shane. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Tony, good luck Saturday in Bloomington. We'll be watching on the Big Ten Network. Shane, I assume you're on a dual Friday night. Is that a safe assumption?
It is a safe assumption. Yeah, this is a big weekend. It'll be a lot of fun.
Is there a big match on Friday? I didn't know.
Is there something going on?
Is there something?
Well, have fun. Have fun calling 1 versus 2. That should be great. We'll be watching. I guarantee it. And go out there and get that win on Saturday, boys. We're going to leave it there. Shane, thanks again. Great to see you. Talk to you down the road. Tony, Tanner, good luck this weekend. And everybody else, we'll catch you next week. Spoiler out.